Happy 4th of July, everybody. This is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about The Last Ship, Season 5. This is the last season of the show, The Last Ship, and holy crap, it was explosive. This is probably the best action-packed season to date, and probably the second best season in the entire series. The first season is really good because, it's the first season. It laid down the groundwork. It had better character development and a more clear story. This season, and this is a trigger warning, is basically their 9/11 season. Basically, this is like, America gets hit really hard, and it's basically their 9/11 Afghan war season and stuff. And so they're on trying to figure out who this terrorist dude is and trying to stop him after he hit America on Fleet Week and everything. And it is devastating. This is probably like I said before, the most action packed. This season had to have a huge budget. They had like tanks, helicopters, people diving out the air, in the water. They had the Navy SEALs, they had the Marines in this season. Like they had a lot of gun shooting this season. So this had to been like, like a huge budget, especially for those tanks and everything. And watching stuff getting blown up, like it was huge. But this is also the most bloodiest season of the entire series, where you literally see people getting executed point blank, and blood splattering everywhere. They are killing men, women, old people, even kids. Now, they don't show the kids getting shot naturally. Like, that's pretty obvious. They're not going to do that. But, you'll see like a person shoot, and then later on, you'll see the kid like on the ground bloody. They went there. Like, they went there this season. They really wanted to show you like why war is such a brutal thing, and why, like, the military deserves like the respect that they do because of all the stuff they when they be like on the battleground and stuff like that. And not only that, but like the press, they really need to do something about the press being on like the battleground. They need like drones in the air with cameras or on the ground or something, because the press be there with barely any like tactical gear, and they literally be in harm's way and stuff. Not only that, but this season, one of the crew members loses both his legs and stuff. And like they really wanted to show just, and one dude loses his hand. Like they really wanted to show just how brutal like war is. And the thing, we got two wars going on in the world right now. Like it is just insane. However, even though this season is extremely good, it's the lowest rated season. See, after the dismal season 4, people kind of just stopped like watching this show. Ratings really went down in season 4 to where like people just lost interest in it. But that's the worst thing. It's like when there's a terrible season, they don't want to come back. But normally that last season is normally like a lot better because they learned from their mistakes. But sadly, nobody watched. Now they knew in advance that season 5 was going to be their last. So they made sure they went out with a huge bang. Like there's so much like on the ground like combat stuff that this is a huge season with stuff they've never shown before on the show. Normally on the show they do like naval trickery to like fool their opponents. You'll see like two warships going at it, stuff like that. You'll see some on the ground combat. You'll see like some gunslinging here and there, but it's never been to the extreme level of what you will see in this season and everything. From like the maneuvers felt like so real, and that's because, like I said before, they have like actual people in the military helping them along on this show as advisors and stuff. They're there shooting with them every day to make sure that it looks authentic and feel realistic. Even that in the tone of how certain people talk and how they interact with their crew members and stuff. Like in season 2, when Garnett found out her family died, Chandler, he didn't hug her or nothing. He just kind of stood there like historic and everything, because the advisors say no commanding officer would like go around hugging their crew member when their crew member's like crying and stuff like that. And and it seems kind of cold when you see that on a drama, but you gotta remember this is a military show. And there have been lots of military shows and movies. Normally people try to shy away from that because the military takes like, their work very seriously. And like when they see it not portrayed very well on screen, they get like really upset no matter what country you're in. I remember there was a British show and they had like, this military show from World War 201. I think it was two, I think. And like the British military people hated that show. Like they hated that show. They're all like, this isn't right, that's not right, that uniform's not correct. And so this is why people tend to like shy away from like military shows. But this seems to be the most popular one that I know of, other than like Sea Patrol and stuff. I've never seen Sea Patrol. At least I don't think I have. There was some show on syndication one time that had to do I think like the National Guard or something like that, but I didn't end up watching it. And you can kind of tell it wasn't filmed in America. It was filmed in Africa, and you can hear the accents and stuff like that. And so like this now, when it comes to character development, there is a bit more than what this show normally gives. Like, because in the first two seasons there was more character development with the characters. Since then they kind of stopped the character development and only focus on certain characters and stuff. There's a bit more character development. I say just a bit. And people get more to do than they normally do, but some people still get the same stuff they really do on the show, which is basically just sit in the chair and say a couple of lines and like that's it. But even though some characters have a bit more character development, I don't know, it's like they're there, they do stuff, but they don't really do stuff. They're just doing like military type stuff. Because this show can't really focus on like character drama and development, but they do with like, probably a few of their characters and stuff. And a lot of characters, main characters and recurring characters, die in this show. And that's a major problem I have. And I'll get to that at the end of this video, because I'm still baffled by some of the people they killed off on this show. And even one of the actors complained about it and stuff. And so, like, when it comes to this show, it is based actually on a book from 1988 by that of William Brentley. And so he wrote this book, and it's different from the show because it deals with nuclear disaster rather than just that of like a virus and stuff. Now the show was created by Hank Steinberg and Stephen Kane, and the show is executive produced by Michael Bay, of all people, Eric Dane, he plays Tom Chandler on the show, the captain, who is now an admiral, and Brad Fuller, amongst other people. Peter Weller, RoboCop himself, who was the villain in season 4 and directed 2 of the episodes in season 4, he directs 3 episodes in season 5, and they are a banger, especially with that of the 5th episode. Like when they're like on the battleground and they're trying to infiltrate this place, all of a sudden you hear rock and roll music. I'm like, wait, what? Which is something so different that this show has never done before. And it cuts from that and Tom and his daughter like having an explosive argument, but you can't hear what's going on between him and his daughter because the rock and roll music sounds it out. And so it just keeps cutting back and forth to that, and it's like awesome and everything. And then he ends it with kind of like a 1950s, 60s, or 30s type song and everything. Quite different and quite unique. This man is an amazing director. So the main villain is Gustavo, and he is Colombian. And basically, What happened is that it's been a total of 3 years since the end of season four. And since season one and season two were back to back, it's been a total of 4 years since that of like season two and everything from when the virus first started. And once again, the show is dealing with yet again another virus, but this time it's not biological, thank God. It's technological. Yes, computer virus. And he uses it to hack that of like the US satellites and that of their naval command center. Um what is it? I forget, the naval station in Mayport. And so like his whole thing is that he hates America. And so like because of that, he wants to restart up like the Grand Colombian Empire, something that was like years ago. And so basically, he thinks American are bullies and all this other crap, and they don't treat like people with respect and all this other crap. So he brainwashes his people and basically becomes the new Hitler. But that's not the only thing he's doing. He's getting allies from other Spanish-speaking countries and stuff. He wants to unite the entire Spanish race or Latin race, however you want to say it, and unify them to go against everybody else. And with America, they don't have that many allies left. Remember, Japan is like gone and everything. China doesn't like America because of the events of season three. Britain turned their back on America in season four, and Greece just doesn't like us and stuff. And there's other countries out there, but a lot of them have been hit hard by the virus. But even though America was hit hard by the virus as well, America is back to looking the way it used to. It even has the internet again and stuff. So he stages this massive war on like America. And two of the countries he really wants to get that he hasn't been able to get yet is that of Mexico and Cuba. So after finding out that, because he hit America on Fleet Week and everything, basically they were celebrating like, you know, the Nathan James and all this, and they now have a fleet of military like vessels now. Because remember, the Nathan James was the last standing U.S. ship. And then in season three, there was like two more, but they got blown up. Now there's a whole fleet, but he takes out the entire fleet. So now the Nathan James is still once again the last naval ship in America. And it does what it does best and everything, you know. And so like he's trying to get like, you know, other Spanish speaking countries have fallen to him, and he's trying to get Mexico and Cuba, but the Nathan James gets to them first. So Mexico and Cuba are working with the Americans, but they don't like each other because even they have been going to war with each other during this virus and stuff. But they put their differences aside to like help the greater good, only for Cuba to turn its back on America and Mexico. Because of that, Mexico is getting hit extremely hard, and basically there's an occupation going on in that of Cuba. But there's a lot of rebellion going on in Cuba. Like the person who turned his back on America, he decided he's gonna run like, you know, the resistance and everything. So now he's crawling his way back to America, getting help and everything. And so Cuba and Colombia, like the major places they had like the battles and stuff. And Cuba is being hit hard, and you know, like I said, the rebels are trying their best to prevent like, you know, Gustavo from like completely taking over and everything. And so he has a wife and child, and he listens to his wife because his wife's like a tarot card reader. And so he believes everything she says for some bizarre reason. Now, he wants to unite all the Spanish speaking people, but he will take out his own people. He offers them paradise, but he kills them if they don't follow along with what, you know, he wants and everything. If a country refuses to go along with that, he executes the people there. If his own soldiers don't want to like fight in the war, then he takes them out and everything. And this causes a problem between him and Hector. Hector is his right-hand man and close friend, and he's a general, but he doesn't like the way Gustavo is like doing stuff, and he's constantly questioning him, but following along with his orders until Hector's generals all like, look man, we need a coup. We can't follow this man, we're gonna follow him to death. So he's like, all right, fine. We're gonna kill this dude tonight, Caesar style and everything. Only for Gustavo to figure it out and kill the generals, and then later on kill Hector. So President Russ or Reese, he is the new president who took over from Oliver in the third season. They never explain what happened to Oliver, but most likely his term just ran out and he didn't want to like be reelected. So now Stephen Coop plays that of the president. He's a little prickly, this and that, and he doesn't want Tom Chandler to be on the front lines of this mission and all this other stuff. But then there's an attack on his life, and Admiral Malin, who has now been promoted to admiral, and he's the commanding officer of like the naval station Mayport and everything. He doesn't get much to do this season. He basically has a desk job along with other people in the show. And so he protects the president from getting assassinated, losing his own life. Diaz is still on Nathan James, but he doesn't do nothing. I mean, he don't do nothing this season. He's only in like 1.5 episodes, and the dude barely says anything. Kathleen, his girlfriend from season 4, is completely written out the show. Gator, basically, I think he's like the navigational officer. He's always sitting in the chair, like has a couple of lines, this and that every season. And so we found out in the 3 years he left the military, but wants to get reinstated after they get hit. And he's trying to help the crew's morale by having them watch an old-fashioned movie. And not only that, but he has a maneuver to get around the enemies and everything based on a video game. Garnett comes back for 2 episodes only, and she's only in there for a matter of minutes. Probably less than a minute of screen time. She's now been promoted to captain. She started off as the chief engineer, then later like a commander, and now she's a captain with her own ship. But when they get hit by Fleet Week by these like planes and stuff, she gets shot up bad and dies. Slattery, he takes it really hard, but it's Dr. Rios who tries to save her, and then he ends up getting shot up really bad and dies along with her. But Slattery only grabs Garnett and drags her off and everything. And when she dies, she tells him something, but you can't hear. And when you look at her lips, it's almost like I love you or something like that, which is odd and strange because Slattery has a wife and kids, but okay, so, but I don't even know where his family's at. It's never been, they never confirmed what happened to his family. We know they went missing during like, the virus, but that's about it. And so we don't know if he found them or not, and we don't know if he's in a relationship with Garnett or not, but he's been promoted to admiral, and when US gets hit, he puts on his old uniform and, goes on a Nathan James. Other than that, he really doesn't do much. Cameron Burke finally comes back for 1 episode and 1 episode only after getting taken out in season 4 in the first episode. We see what happened after that explosion. He lost his leg, he lost his foot, and he has scars on the back of his head. But basically he's just there to try to get funding for that of like the war. Now, most likely he's not here because, he films other stuff. He was the anti-monitor and monitor in the Arrowverse, and he does slam basketball. Now, as for Garnett, she's busy filming the 50 Shades of Grey movies. But as for Rios, I don't know why he was barely in this season 4. Mayarna Walsh, she's a former Disney star, and she's in this show as Maya. And her acting has gotten so much better from her Disney Channel days and stuff. Basically, she's a tactical officer, and that's about it. Master Chief Petty Officer Jeter. So he's still in the show, but he's now taking a desk job at Mayport and everything. When he finds out one of his officers dies, he goes outside to get some air, and then later on they get hit by the terrorists, and the command center gets taken over. Him, along with their new computer person, their IT guy, they help take back the command center and stuff. That's basically all he does this season. He's still there, and he goes back to Nathan James towards the end, but he doesn't really do much. But he survives, so that's a great thing. Wolf and Candy. So they are a couple this season, and basically they don't have no story plot wise other than they like each other. They do more with her military wise other than making her the mysterious eye candy and everything. And so that's a good thing, but other than that, she doesn't have a character arc, and neither does Wolf. But he ends up getting shot up and stabbed really bad, but then he takes out, even though he's wounded, he takes out tons of dudes MMA style, and you think he's dead, but then they put him on a stretcher and he lives and stuff. She gets her foot shot and everything. That's about it. They don't have a story arc whatsoever, but they're just like a couple. Sasha and Tom are now dating, and she lives with him and his kids. And that's basically really it. She's still there doing military stuff, but other than that, she doesn't really have a story arc. But she's still one of the most amazing fighters, and her commanding skills are great. I'm telling people, people didn't like her as Poison Ivy and Batwoman, but when you watch her in other stuff, she is a great actress. Danny Green. So Danny has not been around his family for a while because he's always on a mission. He's barely seen his son. He's going through a lot of emotions this season. When he's in Colombia trying to get out and everything, because in the first half of the season, him and Delta Team are stuck in Colombia and they're trying to get out because Stavo killed the Colombian elected president and everything and framed it on them. And so once he's older in Colombia, he meets his old CIA friend Pablo, and Pablo ends up dying, and he takes it really hard. When he gets back to the States, him and his wife are kind of going through it a little bit because he hasn't really been there and his son doesn't really know who he is. So when his son tries to grab his knife, he literally screams at him. But then, they reconcile and stuff like that. He basically tells her that once this mission is done, that's it. He's done. He's tired of being a warrior. He's killed way too many people. He's seen too many of his friends die, and he just can't take it. When one of his friends ends up getting shot by a harpoon and everything, he takes that person out by shooting up the room but not looking inside it. When he looks inside it, he realizes that the person with the harpoon was a little boy, and he killed him and stuff. And so he's just getting to the point where he just can't handle it no more, and he just needs a break. As for Kara, she's been promoted to CO and everything, and she's the new commanding officer of the Nathan James, and she does a really good job commanding it, even telling Chandler, who's an admiral and everything, this is my ship and I'm not going to do this and stuff like that. And so her job is basically just being on the ship and commanding it until the Nathan James goes down. Carlton Burke. They don't really have no story for him this season. He's just there doing military stuff. He did have a brief romantic interest by a woman who's talking to him, but that's only as far as it went, just a brief talk. He's always given, in season 3, he had a romantic interest, and that got taken away from him very quickly. They never let him have nobody. And so he's basically just there doing military stuff. But he's the one who ends up getting shot by the harpoon and everything, and he ends up dying. Eric Miller is basically, he has a little bit more to do than what he did in the last couple of seasons. He's mostly just on the ground doing military Delta stuff, and he ends up having a love interest in this woman, and it's a nice cute little thing because he's never been given a love interest, and her face is scarred from the virus from a long time ago, but he doesn't care. and she doesn't care when his legs get blown off. Yes, while on the ground, his one of his foot got blown completely off, and the other one was shredded, dangling on a cord. Peter Weller was not playing around when he directed that episode. And so we see him recovering and stuff like that with him missing his legs, and him and that girl are still close together. He wanted to be on Nathan James when they go to Columbia, but of course he doesn't have his new legs fitted. But he's totally okay because he's know they're going to kick a whole lot of butt. Lieutenant Commander Granderson. So she has a desk job at Mayport, and she has a fiance. And they've been together for like years and stuff, right? Her girlfriend, Kelsey. And so, like, yes, it's now confirmed that she is a lesbian on the show. And so, like, while they're at Mayport, they get hacked. And she's not sure how they get hacked until the IT guy tells her that it was her key card and everything. And so she's starting to think, how could that happen? And she remembers her girlfriend sent her a text. And he told her that like it was through like the cell phone that like hacked her key card and hacked the command center and everything. So instead of telling her superior officers, she go to confront her girlfriend herself, not thinking her girlfriend had anything to do with it. And so like, and it turns out her girlfriend was a spy and stabbed her one time, and she dies from a stab wound, just dies like that. And the thing is like it felt just so out of the blue, her dying like that, similar to O'Connor in the last season, because she died in the 4th episode and everything. And the only person who's really taking this hard is just like the IT person and Jester and stuff, or Cheater and stuff. Kelsey is a girl from the wrong side of the tracks. Basically, she's been playing that of Garrison the entire time. And see, when the internet came back on, this is when she started hearing, well, she met some dude online who's part of Gustavo's like group, right? And he pretty much radicalized her, and she believes the word of Gustavo. And so, like, she's the one who helped hack, like, the satellites and the computers and stuff like that by sending the message to that Ganderson. And so, what's really sad before she dies is, like, she tells her, you know what? I almost fell in love with you and everything. I'm like, oh, dude, that's just a blow to the heart right before she killed her. Because they struggled. And Ganderson, Andrea, like, did they not teach her how to fight? She could not even fight this girl who has no fighting skill. They just struggled. And then what's her name grabbed the knife, turned around and stabbed her and just looked at her and then left. But then it turns out they try to make her sympathetic. See, she went to her sister's place. And like, well, first she tried to get like a hot dog, and she didn't have 10 extra cents for the hot dog, and the clerk wouldn't let her have it. So she takes it, runs out, and get hit by a car. Then all of a sudden she ends up at her sister's, and she starts interacting with her niece. But it's not really her niece. It's really her daughter. Apparently she's the type who always fall for the bad boys and everything, trying to make her sympathetic and giving her a backstory. And so then like the dude who like helped radicalize her, he comes to America with the group, and they have her like turn herself in. I'm like, why? And he gave her like an engagement ring, but there's a red pill inside. She takes it, she pretends like she's having a heart attack, and then they blackmail this paramedic to call the ambulance, and they stole an ambulance and infiltrated headquarters. She dies in gunfire. Now, the thing is like, why try to give her a backstory? They could have gave a backstory to somebody who really needs it, like the Asian dude whose name I can't even remember. He's been in the show since season 1, but all he does is sit in the chair, says a couple of words, and that's literally it. Or they could have gave it to Maya, or they could have gave more of a backstory to Diaz. The IT guy, Clayton Swan. So he was actually in military academy. He hasn't even graduated yet. But Chandler says he's one of his smartest students, and he likes his paper he wrote about computer viruses hacking the American government and stuff like that. And so, like, once they actually do get hacked, he promotes him to that of ensign and stuff. And so he's just basically the IT guy figuring everything out. And he's the one who told Granderson about, like, the hack through her key card without telling his superiors. So he feels guilty. He told her because she went on it alone and ended up getting killed. So, Tom Chandler has now been promoted to admiral, and he's taken a teaching job as a professor at the school. But once Fleet Week got hit, he goes back aboard the Nathan James where he stays. He's not really doing no groundwork or anything like that. He's just staying on the Nathan James. And it turns out him and his daughter and son, his family has become broken. Him and his daughter get into a volatile argument because she hates how he's always leaving to save the world and is never home. And she's going off to college and she just wants nothing to do with him. And, he's all like, I'm sorry your mom died and I didn't and everything. And they just have like the biggest explosive like fight. And even the son, Sam and everything, he gets involved by cussing like a sailor and he's like really young and stuff. So they have like a very volatile family, but we never got to see that in any past seasons. In the past seasons, they were always good, but then in season 4, he literally left them in Greece with his girlfriend and everything. Other than that, he doesn't really do too much. He does take out a battleship on a raft with just a missile, and he just chucks it at the battleship and takes it out. But apparently he's been having dreams of another battleship, and Sasha thinks he's hallucinating, but he's not. And so when the Nathan James gets hit hard the first time, half their bow is gone, like a big chunk of it is, and he wants to go after them, but Kara won't let him and stuff. Now the second time they have like a huge fight, the Nathan James gets demolished and is sinking fast to that of like the ocean. So after the ground troops took out like the Colombian army and most of them surrendered, Stavo ended up dying because he tried to shoot that of like Sasha and Danny, but they shot him. And so he wants to take out that other battleship one last time. So while they abandoned ship, he hopped back on the ship and sent like a collision course towards the ship. And he activate all the missiles, and then just like as soon as it's finna hit it, you see him walking off the bridge, and like bam, both ships blows up, and the Nathan James sadly is no more. That just hurt right there. But what about him? You assume he's dead because he's having a hallucination like he's in heaven, and we get to see a couple of the past crew, main and recurring, that died, and so they returned for like a cameo, and Tech is one of them. Dr. Rachel is not one of them, and neither is Michael O'Connor. So it makes me wonder what happened behind the scenes to where those two didn't want to come back for a cameo, but everybody else did, even the dead dog from like a long time ago. And so they keep telling him to keep fighting this and that, and next thing you know, he wakes up in the water but without his uniform on, and he survives as like the crew is trying to get him out the water. And I'm all like, this feels tacked on at the last minute because he's not even wearing his uniform no more. So what happened to it and stuff? It didn't get blown off and he's completely okay. Like, how did he survive that explosion? Now, from the character bios I have told you about and this and that, you could probably understand what my frustration is with this season. My frustration is how they treat their people of color and their minority characters on the show, and killing off every black person on this show except for 2. This is basically a template for like Hollywood, what they do with minority characters. They want to kill people off, so they're like, all right, let's kill off the minorities and let's keep all the white people alive. This has frustrated a lot of people, and it's frustrated the actor who plays Carlton Burke. Jocko Sims. He was pissed about how they kept killing off so many black characters in the last season and all throughout the show. Because when you look at it, a lot of the white characters go through the same wounded injuries as like the minority characters, but somehow they end up surviving. Wolf got shot multiple times and stabbed, and he still fought his way through multiple people like an MMA fighter, and somehow he survived. You've had Slattery get stabbed in season 4 and managed to trek his way across town while staying alive. And you had Chandler get hit by shrapnel this season, and he patched up his wound and survived the cold night with just a campfire, and he survived. But yet Granderson, who happens to be not only a woman of color, black, but also a lesbian, she ends up dying. And that is a trope with the LGBT community, that they always kill gay people off. And like, she gets stabbed and O'Connor gets stabbed, but yet everybody else who gets stabbed ends up surviving and stuff. Like, I don't get that. And the ones that survive are always the white characters. Not to mention, Chandler literally was on a boat that blew up with another boat, and somehow he managed to survive unharmed. Not a singe mark or nothing like that. That don't make no sense. Then you have Rios, the doctor, who literally shows up for like a second and gets shot up. And it's like, dude, what the heck? And then you have Garnett, who's like a woman who finally has reappeared on the show after disappearing in the 4th season, and she gets shot up and everything. Then you have Burke, who literally gets shot in the chest with like a harpoon, and he ends up dying and stuff. And I don't get it. Danny got shot one season, he survived. But then you have Miller, who have his legs blown off, but he survived. But then you have Carmen, like Bert, who got blown up in season 4 and never reappeared on the show until just now. Then you have to think about that lady from season 2 who was really good, and she ended up dying. And when it comes to the main characters that are white that end up dying, only 2 have ever died in the entirety of the show. And one of them died because she's a woman and she's busy filming a movie. So it's like, I forgot Rachel Scott. So 3 white people have died, but 2 of them are women and stuff. And it's just kind of like, what the heck, man? There's a lot of diverse characters on the show. Gator, I think, is Hispanic or something like that. Carr, I'm not really sure. Diaz is there, but he don't do nothing and barely shows up. And it's odd. Like, why do they keep killing off all the black characters and a lot of the minority characters? Haven't they ever heard of the Proclamation Emancipation and everything? And it's just a bizarre and odd thing. And not to mention, what's his name? Malin and everything. He got shot up and died. And we've seen other people get shot up and totally survive this show. So I just don't get it. It's like they have diverse characters and they have them do things, but then they just don't care and they end up dying. Like the dude who played Michael Mancini in Melrose Place, he played a character in this show and he ended up getting shot up. And he's like Italian or something. Now, even the Asian lady who was the gunner, she gets shot up and stuff. While like one of the other ladies who was piloting the helicopter is white and she survives. And it's just odd because white characters, if they're like a main recurring character, they survive. And everybody else just ends up dying. And then they end up dying in the most like pointless kind of way and everything. Like, it's just an insult. And this is why woke culture is like around to prevent stuff like this, because it's really, really, really insulting. Like, it really and truly is. And it's so bad, one of the actors had to call them out. Now, of course, Jeter and Candy, they survived. Candy got introduced in season 4, but she doesn't really do nothing on the show. Jeter is there, but he doesn't really do much either. He'll have like one memorable thing, and that's about it per season, and that's literally it. So I'm glad they kept them alive, because they couldn't kill all the black folks off, because that really would have like pissed people off. But there's literally, this is what happens when you have like all these like white producers, writers, directors, and stuff, and creators, and when they have to kill somebody off, the first people they go to are like minority characters and mainly black characters, and it's just so insulting. So like I said before, this is an extremely good season. It's one of the better seasons. Season 4 is dismal, and I wish season 4 never existed. Season 5 should have been season 4. Now you can watch this on HBO Max, Hulu, and it's available on DVD. I suggest getting the box set instead of the individual disc, because the individual ones are a whole lot more money. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.